Hi, my name is Lilian Silver, and I'm super excited to have Dr. Lisa Kriese-Anderson joining me for this conversation today about her career and experiences in the beef industry. Also about her next challenge of her career now. Just to get started, can you tell me about your background and where you're from, where you studied?
I grew up in a small farming community in upstate New York, outside of Syracuse, New York. And by the time I was born, my grandfather had changed the dairy farm over to a beef cattle farm. And so we had approximately anywhere from 35 to 50 head of brood cows at any one time. And my father asked me one day if I wanted to join 4 H and if I wanted to show a Hereford heifer. And I wasn't really so sure about that. In fact, it was a pretty bad struggle that first year because I really didn't understand, what we were doing or anything like that. And we got to the county fair and I got to show my Hereford heifer. Her name was Audrey. And I got my first ribbon and I was hooked. And so I would have been 9 years old. And from then on, I knew that I wanted to do something in animal agriculture. Like a lot of people, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I worked for a veterinarian from the time I was 14 years old and until I was 21. I worked after school, I worked all summer, and I loved it. I went to Cornell University and got my undergraduate in animal sciences. And pretty much by the middle of my junior year, I knew I was never going to get into vet school at Cornell because you had to have above a 4.0 GPA to even be considered to get into Cornell. And so that, I believe it was the second semester of my junior year, I went into animal breeding. And John Pollock, who many consider to be the father of what our current analysis system is for beef cattle EPDs. He was the instructor. And I listened to him on that very first day of class, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so from there, after I graduated from Cornell, I went to Kansas State, got my master's. Then I had the marvelous opportunity to go to the University of Georgia and study under Larry Benishek and Keith Bertrand. And after I finished there in 1991, I went to U.S. Meat Animal Research Center in Clay Center, Nebraska, and did a postdoc under Dale Van Vleck, who was one of my undergraduate professors at Cornell. And from there, then I moved to Auburn, and I was a state beef cattle extension specialist for 25 years.
That's awesome. That's a great career. And during your career, did you notice changes on more women going to leadership roles? What like what are the differences you've seen during just 20 plus years that you've been working on the industry?
I mean, the entire time that I was at a university, whether it was Cornell or Kansas State or Georgia, really there were very few faculty positions that women held, except if you were a horse, you were in the equine industry. Horse extension specialists, some were women, and then if they had any professors that primarily taught and did research, they might be women. But as far as anybody else, they were few and far between until really that late 1980s and early 1990s that you started to see a change. And as you well know now, in many animal science departments throughout the country, I would say that it's getting close to be at least 30% women, if not more. It all depends on the department.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting just because this has been something that I always discussed where I was going to school in other places because this is the first time that I'm working on the animal science department. Before I was on the agronomy department. And it's still we do not see as many women as we see in the animal science department. It's interesting how this changes between universe and even countries, because in Brazil it's even less representativity than here for sure. It's
And
even
then
less.
another place that I see where there has been a big change is either through state um, beef cattle beef cattle associations, or even on the national level. There are so many more people that are women that are into leadership roles, and that was not there in the what I grew up. I mean, it never bothered me, but now it's like you know there are women who hold very high leadership roles everywhere, along with
Yes.
great men.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Uh, did you have any role models when you're either going to school or growing up that were women?
You know, I really didn't. By the time that I graduated and started looking for jobs, there was one individual in Kentucky that was a state beef cattle extension specialist, as far as I know. She was the first one in the country.
Mhm.
And then there was another cohort of mine that would have gone to Iowa State, that she ended up at Oklahoma. And so by the time that the three of us were in like state beef cattle extension specialist roles, we were probably, as far as I know, one of the first three.
Mhm.
But that never ever deterred me. It never
Mhm.
did. I mean, I just surrounded myself with good people.
Yeah, I think that's the most important actually from just all the conversations that I've been having with a lot of people about this subject. It's always what it counts the most, just who you surround yourself with, definitely. Uh, what has been the most precious advice you received, either career-wise or in a personal level that you took along your with yourself through your life?
I guess I was really lucky when I came to Alabama. Um, there were some people in in the industry, in the beef cattle industry in Alabama, that believed in me.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways, number one, I was from New York. Number two, I was a girl.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of producers that just didn't know about this girl from New York. And I
Mhm.
was very lucky that some other producers said, hey, give her a chance. And so, but they always told me, just be yourself. Just be yourself. And if you don't know, tell them you don't know, but you look for it. And I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's probably um, the biggest piece of advice. It's like, be yourself, do the very best you can do. If you don't know, say you don't know, but say, I'll get back to you.
Mhm. Yeah, the most rewarding experience that you had throughout your career, Dr. Lisa.
I've been asked this question a lot of times, and
Mhm.
I don't think I can pinpoint one. I
When, yeah,
probably have three.
sure.
The first one was when, in the mid 1990s, Alabama was chosen to create from scratch
Mhm.
the first beef quality assurance education model.
Mhm.
We got $50,000, and we thought we were the luckiest people on earth. And so we set about, we didn't know exactly what we needed to do, but we replicated and we created three life-size displays that we took to over, I think the last count was like 152 different places. Okay, and when I say life size, I mean we had 3 of them, and each one of them was constructed of 3 4-foot by 8-foot. At first it was plywood, and then it turned out to be metal.
Sure.
And we did all of that education. And I can remember the first night we did them in stockyards to begin with. And our very first one was in Coleman stockyards. And we didn't have any idea if any producers would come. I mean, we had advertised it, but people weren't too sure. And I can remember, and when we started, there were over 300 people there. And I can remember that first night, people sitting in the rafters.
Wow.
At the stockyard as they went around from display to display. From there, that program morphed into the Master Cattle Producers Program. That was also very successful. And then the third program that I was involved with the last couple years of my career was the Women in Ag program. And that program was very rewarding in terms of taking a group of women, whether they were very advanced or whether they didn't even own a cow and they were just thinking about it, and just trying to show them the basics and doing a day and a half of really hands-on deal and learning about these women and fellowshipping. I think those have made a mark in my heart, in which I felt like we helped people.
That's definitely a good point. Yeah, hopefully. So what would be a final message or consideration you would like to leave for who is listening?
Never miss an opportunity to network. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know how they're going to impact your life, let alone their life. And surround yourself with good people who will tell you the truth, whether it's good or whether it's bad. I mean, because all of us sometimes need a check. And so I think, though, that would be my piece of advice to leave anybody. It's networking and surround yourself with good people.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, those are really, really, especially for this industry. If you know someone who know that other person, and just you can get so much more done for sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Lisa, for taking the time to do this interview. If you, I'll edit this video later. So if you want to say something else that I didn't include on these questions, or I don't know, if you would like to say anything, I can just add it back.
I need to add one more thing.
Sure,
to
go ahead.
What I'm doing. Okay.
Sure.
I retired 2 years ago as the state beef cattle extension specialist. In late 2020, I formed a partnership with 2 other people, and we now own the Black Belt Cattle Marketing Company, in which our focus is going to be on commercial female bred heifer sales. And so that's kind of my new challenge, and it is a challenge, but we're getting geared up for our very first sale in May, and we're very
awesome.